Okay, so for the last part of lesson 6, you're going to create a drawing. You're going to create a scene. You're going to add, starting with a background color. You can also use a background sprite if you'd like to as well. And then after that, you're going to be adding different shapes, such as ellipses and rectangles, to your scene. And then we'll be adding animations, text, sprites, that kind of thing. So when I say animations, I just mean just the regular. You're going to set an animation for your sprite, so your sprite can have a picture or a character. Later on in further lessons, we'll go ahead and animate those and have them moving things, but we're not having them moving just yet. We're just creating a still scene. Okay, so first thing you'll need to do is kind of draw out the scene, maybe on a piece of paper, and so you know exactly what you want it to look like. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and start with this part. So we'll go ahead and get started with a background. I'm going to start with a background color. So let's go to drawing, and we'll say background color. And I want to use a light blue. Go blue for now. I may change that later. I'm actually going to look up RGB value for sky blue. Let's see what we've got. Sky blue. Got the hex color. Got the RGB. Okay, 135, 206, 235. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put in the RGB value here. So let's go ahead and delete this. I'm going to switch it to text. RGB. Then in parentheses, you need to put in the color. So I'm just going to paste this in here. And see what this gives me. There we go. Perfect. All right, I can turn my blocks back on. But you can really pick any color you want. But in this one, I wanted to have kind of like a sky blue. I'm going to go ahead and add any shapes that I want to the scene. So I'm going to actually draw a little sun. So I'm going to go ellipse. And let's have the sun here in the top left corner. So I'm going to turn my grid on to make it easier. And you can really do whatever you want here as far as your drawing. Just make sure you have some background and maybe a couple of shapes. So let's say, let's do 50 for the X, 50 for the Y. I want to just write here, and maybe we'll just say 50 high and 50 wide, or 50 wide and 50 for the height. So let's make sure we give it a color. I'm going to fill this ellipse yellow. We've got a sun. Well, let's do a little bit of grass as well. So I'm going to do a rectangle, and we're going to start it at 0 for the X, and then we'll go 300 for the Y. And this is actually looking kind of similar to what we've done earlier that was already shown for us in an earlier lesson, but that's okay. Let's go 400 wide and let's do 100 high, because our Y value was 300, so if it's 100 high, it'll go from 300 to 400. That should fill the whole thing. And we need to give it a color, so make sure color goes before the shape that you want to color. And we'll just say green. Oh, what'd I do? Should put 0 on my X. There we go. Okay, so we've got there. Now I've got my shapes that I want. I'm going to add sprites later, so I actually don't. No, I want to add some more shapes. I'm going to add a shamrock. So let's do this. Let's go. Let's get 4 ellipses. And I'm going to flip it to show text and just copy this and do 4 of them. and I'm going to change size to 25 width and 25 high. 25 and 25. So let's put it about here. So I want to say maybe maybe we'll do 300. 300 and 200. 300, 200, 25, 25. Let's try that. Okay, so I accidentally deleted my ellipse. So we'll do it again. 300, 200, 25, 25. So I went ahead and added 4 of these ellipses so I could have a little shamrock here. So I'm going to go back to show blocks. And we've got our ellipses there. And then I'm going to draw a little stem. Let's see if we can get this stem in the right place. So let's go, it's like 315 and 200 is the center. So I'm going to grab a rectangle and say 315 for the X, 200 for the Y, and let's make it 5 pixels wide and maybe 50 pixels high. So let's change the color of that too. So I'm going to change this. If there is I'm going to check for a couple colors real quick. Let's look for maybe a darker green here. And we've got RGB. There's a dark forest green, 22, 71, and 30. I'm going to copy that and go back over to code.org and have a darker stem. When I tried to copy the first time, it didn't work out. So I ended up going to the wrong place, I guess. I'm going to paste this one in here. RGB with 3 values. And let's see if that fixes it. There we go. Okay, not the most pretty shamrock, but that's okay. I'm just going to shift it a teeny bit to the left. I don't like where it's at. Let's go 312, and that looks better. Okay, so I don't know if it looks like a tree or a shamrock, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and be done with the shapes and background and move to the next section. And what we got here is it's asking us to add sprites. So you can add or create all of your sprites in the animation tab, and then create variables for the sprite at the top of the program using set animation to assign the images, and then call draw sprites at the end. So let's just put draw sprites at the end. I'll put that there so we don't forget. And then we'll go ahead and create all our sprites and give them animation. So let's run this here just so we see where everything's at. Var sprite equals create sprite, sprite.set animation. I'm actually going to put multiple of these up here. And you can do this one at a time, or you can do multiple. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a sprite, setting animation, creating sprite, setting animation. So I'm going to name my variable and then use it again. Okay, so we've got a couple sprites created. Let's turn on my grid, see where I want them. I'm going to have one here, and maybe one on this side and one on this side. So let's go, I wonder if they're going to be too big though. So 50 and 300 for the one, 50 and 300. And then for the second, we'll go 350 and 300. So I've got 2 sprites set. Now if I run this here, it's just going to give me 2 boxes. Oh, no, it won't, because I've got the set animation. So I've got to set an animation form. If I didn't set the animation, it would give me boxes. So let's go ahead and find some animals. And I'm going to, how many bunnies we got here? We got purple bunnies, brown bunnies, and we got this one. I'm going to use this one. Okay. Got rabbit 1, and then we're going to add another animal. We're going to come back here. Add another one, it's going to be rabbit 2, but I'm going to change these names to, let's go number, just so it matches. It doesn't have to on the animation that you're setting, but I'm going to have it match the name of my sprite as well. I'm actually going to make a couple quick changes to this and be back. Okay, so I actually just edited this a little bit. I didn't want to waste everyone's time looking at it. So let me go ahead and change these animations here. Thunder with thunder, mallow with mallow, and then run it and see if that fixed the problems. Okay, those are way too big. So let's scale these down. So sprite.scale is what we're going to use to change the scale of these sprites. And I can put them right afterwards. Just make sure it happens before you draw the sprites. So thunder.scale and mallow.scale. Remember, 1 is the default size, so if I leave it at 1 to be that size, I probably want to go about 1/4 the size of what it's at now. So let's change it to 0.25. And let's run it. Okay, that's looking better. Alright, so we've got a couple sprites in there, and we've created them with var, and then we've set them with set animation, and then we've set the scale of each of them. We've drawn the background next. We've drawn the ellipse and the green shapes, and then I drew the sprites, which is these two at the very end. Okay, I'm going to hit finish, and then continue to the next. Alright, number 18, this one wants us to add text to the scene. So I'm going to run it again just so I can see what it looks like without the text. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a text command for each line of text that I wanted here. So I'll go ahead and go to drawing. I'll go to figure out where I want to add my text. So I want to add it after the background, right? So as long as it's somewhere after the background on this one. I'm not going to draw over the bunny, so I'm just going to draw up here. So as long as it's after the background, we're going to go ahead and add text. And remember, wherever you place it in here, that's where it's going to draw it. So I'm just going to say, let's say after the sun, I'm going to draw the background text. Now I changed my mind. I'm going to draw it down here before the sprites. So I'm going to say happy birthday, and I want to do that maybe across here. So let's say, oh, maybe 50 and then 100. So 50 and 100. Now, question is, what size do I want it? So I'll go text size, make sure I put that before the happy birthday. Let's make it 20, let's make it 30. Let's see if that's hopefully not too big. And let's also give it a color. So fill color for the text. Let's make it, let's do pink. Why not? So let's run it and see. Happy birthday. Okay. So let's make it even bigger. Let's try 40. And I'm also going to shift it just a little bit from 50 to maybe 75. I'll shift it over 25 pixels, and that looks great. I turn off my grid. Awesome. Okay, so that is all we need to do, it looks like. So we've added our text, we changed the text size and color, and we've drawn sprites. Now, in further lessons, you can animate this additionally. But it's really up to you how you want to draw your scene, with your background, with your sprites, with your shapes, and with your text. Okay, so you may be wondering why I drew a shamrock and I said happy birthday. So I actually added more sprites, just barely, and I've got bunnies that had babies on St. Patrick's Day. So that's what that's all about.